Welcome to my channel. So today's topic of discussion is housing, and I have a potential solution to the housing crisis. Not everybody's going to like it. Some people are going to hate it. Some people are going to love it. I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't figured it out yet, but I need to get the idea started so that way we can have a conversation about it. And this idea needs to move forward into think tanks and go to people that are vastly richer than myself and work out the kinks. And it goes like this. The problem is we have a homeless population that's going out of control. Inflation is dramatically out of control. There's no way to keep up with inflation with income. Not everyone can be a software engineer and make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So the idea goes like this. We take the first house that a person purchases, or one family dwelling unit for a family, and we take it off of the commodities market. In other words, the house, once owned by the family, can no longer be bought or sold. It cannot be traded for other variants of wealth. The house is no longer a commodity. It cannot be owned by a bank. It can only be owned by the family, in which case it's a non-taxable structure and property because there's no tax associated to it any longer, because it's no longer a commodity. It's no longer an asset. Due to the fact that houses are typically liabilities, this would incentivize the homeowner to be able to afford to upkeep the house with all the money they're saving on taxation and the ability to reduce their cost of living, because they can grow their own food on their own land and they can do some other things. And because the house cannot be traded outside a family to another family or another state or another country, all those houses are American commodities, but they're not commodities. They're American homes where people live. Now, that does not mean that the people have to live there. It just means that they can't be taxed on that value anymore. We remove it out of the system. Now, if a person wants to buy a second house, that house is a marketable commodity and can be taxed as is normal for the city, the state, and the government. But the primary residence for the head of the household cannot be taxed. Any house thereafter can be. So any property thereafter, they could tax those. You want to own 50 properties, you're going to get taxed on those 50 properties. But your first property, your 51st property, first property that you ever own, not a commodity, not taxable. And that way people have a safe haven to go to in the event that the economy collapses, or there's a natural disaster, or they just need to have shelter from anything. The housing is the first thing that gets protected. Now, along with that housing, water, sewer, and fuels would be protected also. That house wouldn't be able to be shut off for lack of payment. It would be protected because whether the PG&E or the sewer company or the water company wants it or not, you need those people to own stuff. And if they own other stuff, they'll pay you plenty of money to keep you up and operational. The initial residence is the non-commodity residence. And this would start solving the housing problem. Now, there could be a million reasons why this is a bad idea. And that's why we started a discussion about it and put it to a think tank. But we need to come up with a solution for the American people now. And this one, I think, solves some seriously fundamental problems. One, it makes sure that you have a house. This is not apartments. This is not high density housing. No, this is a house with property that you can grow food on. And I think that it's everyone's right to have that. Now, if people are inside of the city and they live in an apartment complex and they want to live in the apartment complex, that's fine. But they should have the ability to have a house that's not inside the city, that is available to them in case that the city's systems fail. And systems inside cities fail because the cities are decaying over time and they're not being fixed. So it'd be better to have the community go back to a safe place where they have food, water, and shelter, and they can provide for themselves. And then if they want to go back to the city and live in an apartment, they can rent the apartment, they can pay for that apartment, whatever. It'd be a secondary domicile. It'd be a second residence. Your secondary residence is a taxable situation. You want to live in a city and make a lot of money and live in that apartment complex, you get taxed. If you want to live in the countryside or just on the suburbs where there's enough land to produce your food and not be taxed, that should be your right. And that way, if the city thing doesn't work out, at least you don't fail. You can go back to your land and you can occupy your land and take care of yourself and your family. Now, that would mean that the head of the household gets one house. So if the household splits up, the primary household head still keeps the house. The secondary household head can go get a different house and live in a different house under the same rules, where they are now primary to their household. They can own one house, free and clear of taxation. If they want to own two houses, they can own the second house. But if the family is breaking up, at least people have a place to be and is reasonable. There's going to be some issues with building housing. There's going to be some issues with infrastructure. There's going to be some questions about how this operates. What I'm saying is, let's start the discussion and start it now. You have interest in this, put a comment below. If you have a lot of interest in this, give it a thumbs up. If you have a lot of interest in this, share this with a friend. And if you have a lot of interest, make your own video and share it with me so I can see what you're thinking. Have a great day.